How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf 29, Daf Chavtes, Daf 29 of masechta Avodah Zarah. Friends, your friends. Well, today we wrap up our discussion about maladies and stuff, and kind of like Talmudic cures for like maladies. Uh, and then we wrap up the Mishnah that we had began the other day. I don't even remember when it was, but it was certainly the other day. I think 2 days ago. Um, Regarding haircuts with pagans, and then we get to a new Mishnah, and this Mishnah is interesting. Why is it interesting? It's interesting because it brings up the idea. It is cool because we've been learning Babylon Talmud now for like 5.5 years or so, and now we're getting up to the sugya of Yayn nesech, kind of famous kind of sugya, and um, yeah, here it is, masechta Avodah Zarah, right? The sugya of Yayn nesech, which is basically the wine of pagans of the Kochavim, but I think generally we just understand it to be wine of non-Jews, not necessarily because of Avodah Zarah. We're going to get a little bit into the concept really in Tosfos of Stam yaynum is going to come up in terms of intermarrying, but we're starting to kind of get into that sugya, which is pretty cool. So that is what is in store for us on today's daf Chavtes of masechta Avodah Zarah. Where did we stop? I think that we had stopped on daf Chavtes Amud Aleph about 5 lines in to the Amud daf Chavtes Amud Aleph. Says the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Hamak is dumb, a person who bloodlets lo yochal chagvash, shouldn't eat chagvash. Chagvash is an acronym for lo cholav v'lo gvina v'lo b'tzolim v'lo shcholim. Not milk, not cheese, not what's batzal? That's like an easy one. Onion. Not onions and not cress. Oh, Heather, by the way, I have a new microphone. Brand new microphone. Hopefully it's working. Hopefully the microphone is working. And hopefully the microphone is working. Hopefully the microphone is working. If not, I'll have to use the backup recording. Okay. Anyways, hopefully it's a step up. Hopefully it's a step up. Okay. So a person who bloodlets should not eat milk, cheese, onions, and cress. And if he does eat it, also the cholav also the chamer. And I guess if you did eat these things that you shouldn't have eaten, so then bring a revius. Okay, it's like, I don't know. I think it's like, I can't remember. It's a few ounces of vinegar and a revius of wine. Vinar bevinu ba'adei adari, and mix them together. Mix together the wine and the vinegar. V'nishte, and drink that. V'chimapne lemapne lemizrach shel ir, and then afterwards, when you defecate, only do that to the east of the city. Because it's going to be a modnadika smell, a modnadika shmek. So therefore, when you defecate, do it to the east of the city, because the wind from the east coming into the city is the most mild, and we want to keep that shmek out. Amr Bishur Levi, says Rabbi Shua Levi, Mailin unkli b'Shabbos. My unkli, Amr Baba, is tumcha. It's tumcha deliba. Okay, on Shabbos you can, like, I don't know, fix your heart or something. Aw, that sounds so lovely. Maya Susa, how do you fix your heart on Shabbos? Maisi kamuna kruya vininya. Oh, sheesh. Vagata v'tzis. Dude. Okay, I'm not going to remember what these things are. Okay, let me try to find them. So you bring, drum roll, please. You bring, the thing that you bring is, cumin, mint, asafatida, and hyssop grass. That's what you bring. A ladle full of cumin, mint, asafatida, Oh, it's savory and hips of grass. I skipped a few things the first time, but those are the things that you bring. Okay, got it? Okay, fine. Now the liba, if you're making this concoction because you have to fix your heart, well then bechamer. So you mix all these ingredients with wine. V'simanach v'yayin yisamach levav enish. That the pasuk says that wine will make happy the heart of the people. So if you're drinking this concoction for your heart, you mix it, you concoct it with wine. Lerucha, if it's for rucha, I don't really know what that is. Bimaya, I don't think the art school knows what it is. It just says rucha. So if you need it for rucha, so b'maya, so you concoct it with water. V'simanach v'ruach elikim rachefes al pnei hamayim. That the ruach of God was hovering over the water. The chuda, and if it's for childbirth, b'shichra, with beer. You concoct it with beer. V'simanach, and your sign is v'kad al shichma. It says by, who does it say? By Rivka? Rivke. So that Rivke, it says v'chada shichma, her jug was on her shoulder, but kada is like kuda, it's like childbirth, and shichma is like shecher. So there you go. For childbirth, concoct this concoction with beer. Now Rav Acha b'derava, when he had to concoct this, so he would take he would take a fistful of all the ingredients zusammen together, and he would wait, what is it? Oh no, I'm sorry. So he would grind all of these ingredients into a mixture, and then from the mixture, and then so from this mixture of all these ingredients together, he would take a fistful, and then he would put that into whatever his base was, whether it was water or beer or wine, and then he would drink up. Rav Ashi did things slightly differently. He would grind up each ingredient on its own. Rabasi, zutrasi, and then he would just basically take a pinch of each of the ingredients, right? Like his big finger and his little finger, pinch them together, and with some of the ingredient in between, in the pinch, and and he would concoct the concoction that way with pinches. Rav Papa says, Rav Papa, I did all these concoctions. I concocted all of these concoctions, and I wasn't healed. Until a certain Arab told me, what you got to do is you got to take a new jug, and fill it with water, and put in, I think, I don't know, maybe a scoop of honey. The talila bekuve that was left out overnight. What is it? The talila bekochve that was left out overnight under the stars. The macher ishti, and then afterwards, so you have water and honey, I guess, and then afterwards you drink it the next day. Avdi achi ve'istoi, and says, Papa, Itaka did this, and guess what? Itaka worked. So I suggest everybody try it. I guess. Tanarbanan, the rabbis. There are 6 things that heal a sick person from his sickness, and its healing is a healing. And these are the 6 things. Kruv, I guess cabbage. Vitradin, beets, mesisin, yevesha, I guess dry yeast water or something. The kevas, maybe that's stomach, maybe? No, I feel like it's not. What's kevas? Let's see. Okay. Oh, what was that? Was that a spoonful of honey? Okay, that was earlier. Okay, the maw of an animal. What the heck is a maw? Oh, and mesisin yevesha is water of dry pennyroyal. Oh, season, I thought, did we say yesterday that season was yeast? I don't know. But pennyroyal, what the heck is that? The kevas and the maw of an animal, the harris and the womb of an animal. Yosef covering the diaphragm. Yeshobim av dogim ktanim. To those who say also small fish. That is a good remedy. Not only that, ella shedogim ktanim mafrimu marbin kol gufa shel. Not only that, but small fish, they're like real good for a person's body. All right. Now, there are 10 things that return a sick person to his sickness, and it's real schwer. Eluin, these are them. Ha'oichel b'sar shor shuman. I guess somebody eats fatty ox meat. B'sar tzali, roasted meat. B'sar tziporim, bird meat. Uveya, tzluya, a roasted egg. Ushcholim, cress. V'siglachas, and bathing. Umerchatz, and shaving and bathing. V'gvina, and cheese. V'kovid, and liver. Rishon mafagozim, some say even nuts. Rishon mafkshun, some say even cucumbers. Tanadve Rabbi Shmuel, we learned this the other day. Lamani kashman kishun. Why are they called cucumbers? Why are cucumbers called kishun? Because they are bad for a person's body like swords. Okay. Well, friends, that wraps up the remedy portion of today's daf. Oh, so now in our Mishnah, Reb Meir had said that we don't haircut with pagans. It's dangerous. They can partially kill you, right? You're standing there, a guy's got a freaking scissors or a razor or whatever it might be. Well, I think Tosfos Taka says maybe with scissors is okay. I have to look at that again. But anyways, Reb Meir says don't go to a pagan barber nowhere. The Chacham say it's okay in Rishus Rabim, but not in Rishus Hayochid. So now, says the Gemara, when mistapen men b'chom agam toner, one of the rabbis taught, you saw a mistapen ovid kchom, a yid who is getting haircutted from an ovid kchom, roya b'mare, so you should be looking into a mirror. As Rashi explains, and as we're going to see in a minute in the Gemara, because by looking into a mirror, the hair cutter is going to get the impression that, ooh, looky here, look what we're dealing with over here. An important person was looking into a mirror. Okay, well, if he's an important person, I better not kill him. So therefore, if a yid is getting a haircut from a pagan, you should be looking in the mirror so the pagan thinks he's big stuff. And Oivik Kechavim, who is getting haircutted from a yid, once the yid gets to his rat tail, we leave the rat tail, don't do anything for the rat tail. We said okay, fine. So, okay, leave the rat tail. We'll get back to that in a second, but or maybe in a minute, but leave the rat tail. Okay, we said earlier, you saw a yid who's getting haircutted from an Oivik Kechavim. Roye b'mari looks into the mirror. Hechidami, what is the scenario? If we're talking about the yid is getting haircutted in the public domain, and we're saying use the mirror, but then what do you need the mirror for if it's in the public domain? Lamali mar, what do I need the mirror for? Ve'i, right? If it's in the public domain, where am I? What do I need if we're talking about the public domain? Why do I need the mirror in order, to prevent him from killing me, to trick him into thinking or to convince him that I'm a choshev a mensch? But if you're in public, he's not going to kill you anyways. He's in public. And if we're talking about in a private domain, how's a mirror going to protect you? So the Olam B'Shus HaYachid, so answers the Gemara, like I explained a minute ago, really we are talking about in private. But because he's looking into a mirror, he needs to care about how he looks. It looks like an important figure. And therefore, the Ovid Kechavim will not want to kill him because he can get, if he's an important figure, he might get into trouble for killing him. Rav Chana bar Bizna, I've mistapim Ovid Kechavim. Rav Chana bar Bizna was haircutting from an Ovid Kechavim in the pathways of Narda. I guess it sounds like it wasn't quite a Rishus Harabim. Sounds like it was more like the back, kind of maybe like a back alley kind of thing or an outskirt, but nonetheless, even though it wasn't, I guess, exactly a big public busy area, but it seems that people did pass through there. So I'm like, Chana, yoy koyech lezuge, and Rav Chana bar Bizna was getting his haircut from a pagan in the, sort of the Shvile de Narda, And the pagan says to Rav Chana bar Bizna, he says, "Oh, Chana, your neck looks really good for my scissors." Omar, and Rav Chana bar Bizna says, this is bad. Tastily, I deserve it. The Avriyad Reb Meir, because I violated Reb Meir. Reb Meir had said, don't get a haircut nowhere from a pagan. You should never be getting your haircut from a pagan. I'm getting my haircut from a pagan. And now he's talking about how beautiful my neck looks for his scissors. Oh boy, I'm in trouble and I deserve it. Because I transgressed Reb Meir's instruction, his opinion. But wasn't he also in violation of the rabbi's opinion? Because after all, the rabbi said you can only do it in Rishus HaRabim. This wasn't quite a Rishus HaRabim. Ema do'am rabbanon Rishus HaRabim, Rishus HaYachid mi'amr. Right? Because the rabbis only said in Rishus HaRabim it would be permitted to get a haircut. Not in Rishus HaYachid v'usavar, but Rav Chana bar Bizna figured Shvili Narda came the Shriche Rabim Kirshus HaRabim Damu. He thought that in these pathways of Narda, since there lots of people go there, and pass through there, so he figured that maybe it could be considered like Rishus HaRabim. Maybe it was taka okay. So, but it seems that it was risky. The hair cutter was commenting on how beautiful his neck is for his scissors. We said that a Ovid Kechavim who is being haircutted by a Jewish hair cutter, so once the Jew, the hair cutter, gets to the rat tail, stop. Put down your scissors. Where am I? So v'chama. And how far from does he cut right up to the rat tail? What does he do about the rat tail? Because the rat tail is some kind of Avodah Zarah situation. Does Rashi say the Voisa Shu Megadol Avodas Kechavim? There you go. Show me the because Machin Shalish Dros Charuch Dram Shlo Yayn Miskane Misakna. I'm just reading a Rashi from earlier that Be'etzem this Oivik Kechavim was growing out his rat tail for his Avodah Zarah. So therefore, a yid who's haircutting him doesn't want anything to do with his rat tail. And so it says the Gemara, V'chama, how far away from the rat tail does the yid need to stop cutting? Okay, so this has come up a few times in the Gemara already. Where has it come up? It's come up in Beya, Ksubis, Makis. Right, so we already seen this a few times. It's like this little tricky riddle. It's not quite on the level of a riddle, but it's like a little tricky. But nothing too complicated. It's just like a little technical tricky thing. So Amr of Malchia says of Malchia, Amr of Adabar Hava Sholish Etzbos L'chol Ruach Varuach. This isn't the tricky part. 3 finger breadths in every direction, right? So you have the rat tail there. Leave the rat tail alone, and don't cut all the way up to the rat tail. Leave 3 finger breadths surrounding the rat tail. Leave unhaircutted, untouched. Now, Rav Chanina says, Rav Chanina braid Rav Ika shvud shvachis vegumis Rav Malchio. These 3 sugyas of shvud, shvachis, and gumis, they are all like Rav Malchio. Bloris, which is what we just learned about, Ephraim, Makle, Ugvina Rav Malchia. That is taught by Rav Malchia. Okay? So again, Shvud, Shvachas, and Gumas were taught by Rav Malchia. Bloris, Ephraim, Mikla, and Gvina were taught by Rav Malchia. As we just learned, Rav Malchia said the three fingers in all directions. Now, Amr Papa says, Papa Masnisin, Umasnisa Rav Malchia, Shmaitzer Rav Malchia, where he says a little different. Rav Papa doesn't say exactly which sugyas are Rav Malchia and which are Rav Malchia. But what he does say is that any of those sugyas that were taught in mishnas or brisas, those are all Rav Malchia. Anything that are shmaitzes, anything that were just kind of like lessons taught from tradition, that was passed down. So then that was Rav Malchia. V'simana masniso malchusa, and the way to remember the opinion of Rav Papa is that the masnisa malchia, right, as opposed to malchio. Right, so anything that's like a mishna or a brisa would be like Rav Malchia. Okay, fine. Now, my benayu. So, what's the difference between if you're a papa who says that any mishnas and brises are of Malchia and the shmaitzes are of Malchio, right? Or if you are Rav Chanina Brei, the Rav Ika, who says that Shvud Shvachas and Gumis, or Malchia, blows Sefer Mikla, Bagvina is Malchia, the Nafkamina, Izik Benau Shvachas. That Shvachas is Taka Abraisa. So according to Rav Papa, it would be Rav Malchia, whereas according to Rav Chanina Breder Vika, he lists it as part of Rav Malchio. Right? Yes. Okay, a very technical thing right there. But okay, fine. Exciting times here at Babel on Talmud. Okay, so now we get to a new Mishnah where we start talking about like Yayn nesech and some things like that, which is interesting. So here we go. Says the Mishnah, Elu dvarim shel oivdei kochavim asurin. So the following things of pagans are not allowed. Visuran isra anoya. Okay, so the following things belonging to pagans are not allowed, and their not allowedness is in isra anoah. You can't get any benefit from these items. Yayn, for example, wine. The achometz shel ovdei kochavim shoyim mitchilaso yayn. Okay, so wine. Maybe let me stop here for a second. Wine. What do I want to say about wine? So let's just talk about Yayn nesech for a second. Okay, let's talk about Yayn nesech for a second. Or maybe I'll even do. Okay, so let me actually start by saying two things. I don't know, maybe more. Oh gosh, wait. What do I want to get into right now? What do I want to get into right now? What do I want to get into right now? What do I want to get into right now? What do I? Let's actually maybe let's not talk about reasons why yet for now. Let's just assume so wine belonging to an ovid kochavim, right, is going to be a sur. Okay, now and it's not just asur like to drink or whatever. You can't get any benefit from it either. Hayayin ve'achometz shel ovdei chacham shoyim mitchilaso yayin. So wine, right, belonging to an oved kochavim, or vinegar belonging to an oved kochavim, that started off as wine. So oved kochavim had wine, and then it became vinegar. So then that is also going to be asur. Or it started off as wine and then became vinegar. V'cheres hadaryani, and Hadrianic pottery, which I think basically had you would it's like, I guess this powder that you would soak in water or something, and wine would come out. I guess they would somehow make wine tiles or something. The oris levuvin, and hides where there's a hole by where the heart was, right? So let's say you have, I don't know, maybe a cow or something, a cow hide, and there's a big slit where the heart was, because the Ovdei Kochavim, they would just tear out the cow's heart or something like that. Kind of gross stuff. So hides that there's a slit by the heart, so that is asur ba'ano. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, Bisman she'akerish lo agul asur. Says Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, look, if the tear is round, then yeah, it's asur. Moshuch, but if it's a slit, if it's long, so then it is mutar. Because I guess when they were ripping out the heart for Avodah Zarah, they would make a round hole, I guess. Basar nichnas la'avodas kochavim mutar. If one intercepts meat on its way into worship Avodah Zarah, well, that's mutar because it hasn't yet been used to worship Avodah Zarah. Va'yotze, but meat that is on its way out from Avodah Zarah, well, asur, that would be asur mipnei shu kizivchei mesim, because it is like the offerings of the dead, i.e., Avodah Zarah. Tiv Rabbi Kiva, that's the opinion of Rabbi Kiva. Ahochim letarfus. Also, somebody who is on their way, right? Those who are on their way to some kind of a pagan festival, do not, of course, as we know from the first parak, you shouldn't be doing business with them, because maybe whatever you sell them, they will offer to their Avodah Zarah, or they'll be thankful and give gratitude to their Avodah Zarah. So just don't do it. But on their way back from the festival, that's already okay, because they're not they already did their Avodah Zarah. They're on their way back. Notice ovdei kocham v'kan konein, hide, these hides that they would put wine in, wine hides, wine skins, maybe they're called. of the Ovdei Kuchavim, the Kankanin, and their jugs. Yayn shel Yisrael kanus bayin, and a Yid put his wine into these containers. Asurid, v'isurein isra anoya divrei meir. They are osur. These containers are also, the wine's also, and not only is it also, but it's also by noah too. You can't sell it, you can't get any benefit from it. That's the opinion of Meir v'chacham or any no. Whereas the chacham say, it sounds like the chacham say that they're also, but they're not also by noah. Okay, fine. We can get benefit from them, but you can't drink it. Hachartzanim ve'azagin, grapes and peels. Now, I don't know. I kind of feel, I don't know, I can't say for sure. I might be wrong. I don't know. I kind of feel like it's the pits and the skins that were used in the creation of the wine, but I might just be wrong. It might just be like I don't know. It feels like it's after they crushed the grapes or something. I don't know. Maybe just their grape, even just their grape skins and I don't know, peels. Maybe those themselves could just be also. I'm not exactly. What does Asher say? Psulas shel hanobim v'gar'inin shebesochim. I don't know. Yeah, it sounds like the pits and peels of grapes from over the Kuchavim. Let's just say that. I don't know, because maybe it's a Gzera because of Yayn nesech. I don't know. Shall of the Kuchavim that belong to the Kuchavim, Asurin v'Yisurin Isra Divrei Meir, they are Asur. The pits and the peels are Asur, and their Isra is an Isra Noah. That's the opinion of Meir. V'Chacham Amrus, the Chacham say, Lachin Asur Niveshim Mutar. And if they're still moist, Rashi says what moist means is the first 12 months. So then they are Asurin. But if they are dry, if it's post 12 months, then they are okay at that point, according to the Chacham. Hamurius, what's Murius? Shemen Shaldogim, fish oil. The Gvinas base Unyoki, and the cheese from Unyoki. Shalov the Chacham, Asurin, V'Yisurin Isra Anoya Divrei Meir, they are Asur. Right, the fish oils and the cheese are asur, and their isur is asur ba'anoah. Divrei Meir v'chacham ein isur nisur. Whereas the chacham say that they are asur, but not ba'anoah. Can't eat them, but you can get benefit from them. Rabbi Yehuda says, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yoshua. Rabbi Shmuel asked Rabbi Shmuel when they were on a shpatzir. Rabbi Shmuel says to Rabbi Shua, Mipnei ma Osru gvinas oivdei kuchavim. Rabbi Shmuel says to Rabbi Shua, how come? What's wrong with cheese of the idolaters? Right? We don't eat cheese. Right? We don't eat non-kosher cheese. Why not? Omar Lai, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yoshua responds, Mipnei shemamidin oisa b'keva shanevela, because of the rennet. They use rennet from, the stomach of a nevela, of non-kosher animals. They use the rennet from the stomach of the non-kosher animal. But Rabbi Shmuel responds, he says, yeah, but so what? Because after all, what's more chamer? What's more stringent? A korban ola? A korban ola or a nevela? A korban ola is asur ba'anoah. Nevela is not asur ba'anoah, right? We learned the other day that you could sell it to a ger toshav, to an over kochavim. So an ola is asur ba'anoah. A nevela is mutar ba'anoah. In ola, right, there's an asher me'ilos. If you get anoah from an ola, you have to bring a korban asher me'ilos. Masha ein kain by nevela. So ola is more stringent than nevela, and yet, so Amarlo, so Reb Yishmael says to Reb Yoshua, Balo kevas ola, the rennet from a korban ola, chamura mikevas nevela would be more stringent than should be more stringent than the rennet from a nevela. V'amru, and yet they said, Kain shedaito yafet sorfa chaya, that, a kohen who's got a strong stomach, a kohen who could stomach it, he could gulp it down. If he could stomach it, he can gulp it down. The rennet from a korban ola. Now the Chomen did not agree with this, but they still said Einen in V'lamayalid. that they said, look, we don't want you getting any benefit from the rennet of a korban olah, but at the same time, you won't be over on me'ilah, which means that it's not also midorais. If it was also midorais, you'd have to bring korban me'ilah, so it's not. So, right? So midorabanan, they say we don't want you to gulp down the rennet from a korban olah, but midoraisa, it's permitted. So on the one hand, we're saying that the rennet of a korban olah is permitted. So I would think that the rennet of a nevela should be permitted as well. So, like, again, why can't we eat cheese from the Ovdei Kochavim, right? If the issue is the rennet should be okay, argues Rabbi Shmuel Amar Lo. So Rabbi Shua then says, Mepnei shemamidin also bekevas egle avodas kochavim. So Yeshua says, well, it's because the rennet comes from calves that were used for Avodah Zarah, so it's Avodah Zarah. But Amar Lo, imkein, lama lo asur ba'ano. But if that's the case, the Chacham say that it's also b'nat ba'ano. But if we're talking about Avodah Zarah, it should be also even ba'ano. He sealed the davar acher. Yeshua changed the topic and instead decided to talk about Amar Lo Yishmael heach at kore kitovim dodecha miyoyin o kitovim dodoich. Rabbi Yeshua totally changes the topic and says to Rabbi Shmuel, hey, Rabbi Shmuel, the pasuk in Shir Ashir, kitovim dodecha miyoyin, that your love is greater than wine. Do you read dodecha, plural, that it's the Am Yisrael talking to the Rabbanei Shalom, or dodayich, female, which means the Rabbanei Shalom talking to Am Yisrael, to Knesset Yisrael? Amar Lo, Rabbi Shmuel responded, where am I? So okay, when Amar Lo, kitovim dodayich. So Rabbi says, I say kitovim dodayich, that it's a reference, it's the Rabbanei Shalom speaking to Am Yisrael, to Knesset Yisrael. Amar Lo, Yoshua responds to Rabbi Shmuel, Ein adover kain. That's actually not the case. It's dodecha sharei chavero melamed. The next pasuk we can understand from the next pasuk, which says l'reach shmonecha tovim, to the shmek of your good oils. So to the shmek of your good oils. So shmonecha is male. So therefore dodecha would be male, and it's Am Yisrael. It's Knesset Yisrael talking to the Rabbanei Shalom. Now, Zok the Gemara, Frek the Gemara, Yayn minolim. Where do we have a pasuk to teach that wine is asur bano? So now this is interesting. Okay, so now let's talk a shtickle about Yayn nesech, Stam yaynum. So the Gemara doesn't say anything about Stam yaynum, but Tosfos asks a kasha. Tosfos asks a kasha. So first of all, before we get to Tosfos' kasha, what is Yayn nesech? Yayn nesech is, well, they would use wine to libate for their avodas kochavim, for their Avodah Zarah, for their getchkis. Right? Of course, in the Beis HaMikdash, l'avdol elef afle avdalis, v'ribe rivavis, we have wine libations on the Mizbeach. So they also would libate with wine. So any wine that was used for Avodah Zarah, of course, would be a nesech, would be not allowed. Now, Tosfos, so actually, once more before we get to Tosfos, so the Gemara now asks, where do we have a pasuk to say that wine is asur bano? So now Tosfos points out that actually our Mishnah is not talking about Yayn nesech, it's talking about Stam yaynum. What's Stam yaynum? It means Stam. Just regular old wine that's owned by an Ovdei Kochavim. Stam yaynum. Right? What does Mishnah say? These are items that an Ovdei Kochavim owns that are asurin v'isuran isra that are asur ba'anoy yayin. A Ovdei Kochavim who has wine, it's asur ba'ano, regardless of if it was used for Avodah Zarah or not. So this is Stam yaynum. Just their wine in general is asur. And Tosfos points out, why is Stam yaynum asur? It's not because of Yayn nesech. It's because of intermarriage, right? If the Yidden and the Kochavim are getting together, tzazamen and fabrengen, and having a good time and drinking, then they can say, I have a boy, you have a girl, let's make a smacha shidduch, and then things get tricky. So it's midrabanan Stam yaynum. So therefore, Tosfos asks if Stam yaynum is be'etzim only also midrabanan, then why are we asking for a pasuk? That's Tosfos kasha, gewaltige kasha, right? So Tosfos says, though, Tosfos answers. And he says that because there is a concept of yayn nesech, and Stam yaynum is basically very similar to yayn nesech, right? But basically, it's saying that wine is usher. So we treat, even though Stam yaynum is because of intermarriage, it's because of intermarriage, but we treat it nonetheless with the same level of stringency as we treat yayn nesech, and therefore, when we're talking about wine over here, we want to know minol, and how do we know that it's also ba'ano? So we're looking for the pasuk. I guess the point is that we're looking for the pasuk as if it was talking about yayn nesech. I guess is the point. So now says the Gemara, Amrabar Avua Amarkra, Asher Chelev Zvachemo Yochelu, that they will eat. Says the pasuk na Azinu, that the fat of their offerings they will eat. So we're talking about the Zvachim and Yishtu Yayn Nesicham, and they will drink the wine of their libations. Mazevach Aser, and just like a offering is also bano, so af yaynami also bano, so also yayn nesech is also bano. V'zevach gufim minolan. How do we know that an offering is also bano? The Chassid is supposed to say vayitzmedu leval por, vayochlu zivchei mesim. It says, well, they got involved with Baal Por and they ate the offerings of the dead. Ma meis also bano, af zevach nami also bano. Just like the dead is also bano, it's also an offering is also bano. Umeis gufim minolan. How do we know that a corpse, that a dead person is also bano? Asher sham me egla rufa. Because if it says vatamos sham Miriam, it says vatamos, that Miriam died there. So we're talking about a dead person. Arfu sham eso egla banocha. It says by egla rufa, when a corpse is found in the middle of nowhere and they don't know who did it, so they take a calf and they kill it in a valley. So there it says sham, and therefore malaholan also bano, avkana nami also bano, just like an egla rufa is also bano. So also a mace is also bano, but also minolan. How do we know that egla rufa is also bano? Amrit ve'abyane kaparek sirbo kikachim. It says by egla rufa kapara kaper la'amcha Yisrael. All right, well, what does the pasuk say? It says kaper la'amcha Yisrael shepadisa Hashem v'altitin damnoki b'kerev amcha Yisrael v'chiper v'nikaper loim adom. So and therefore kapara, right? It's like kachim, just like kachim is also bano. So also a egla rufa is also bano. Gevaldig egla rufa is also bano, and therefore that from that whole chain we learn that nesech is also bano. That was daf choftes of masechta Avodah Zarah. We started off the daf by wrapping up some of these cures for talmudic cures for maladies. We then wrapped up the discussion about haircuts. Machlekes Reb Meir, who says you can't get haircuts from pagans in any scenario, and the Chachamim who say that you can in Rishus Rabbim. We saw the story with Rav Chana Bar Bizna, who was getting a haircut in the streets, and sort of the Shvile Dinarda, in the Obed Kocham haircutter sort of pointed out that his neck was looking very good for his scissors. And then we got into the sugya that we are beginning now of yayn nesech. We discussed a little bit about Stam yaynum. And this is going to be interesting. And we're going to continue with this tomorrow. Have a good one. Peace out.